Next we'll have Preston within the news. So you can bring your horns out now.
Throw shoes at me. I have no idea what we're talking about right now. Not really. As usual, we start out at this point in time, and I'll be more than happy to entertain any questions you might have, so that we can get the room clear and we can talk. So, anybody have any questions right now you want to ask me? Yes, sir. 3 days? Well, I was just over there today questioning myself, and apparently the storm knocked it out pretty good. And yeah, some of these, crazy electronic things are sensitive even today to these big storms. So they're working on it right now. I shouldn't say this, but I'll say it anyway. It looks like you're gonna have to get a whole new transmitter. And yeah, that's a big deal. But I guess the storm came in there and knocked a bunch of power lines down right across the street from the radio station. So that's the reason why. I still think you can get it on the internet. If you go to KMYC 1410 AM on that icon. It did too? The internet's off? Well, I do know that the internet came back on today because I was there helping put it back on. But I don't know, I didn't check the stream if it was working. So, I know that. Okay, any other questions? Okay, I'll answer that in a minute. Great question about FBI, Hillary, and all that stuff, and about, you're talking about the email scandal, right, Johnny? All right. Should I start with that? Huh? Not in jail yet. Okay, I'll start with that because I got a call just before tonight, and they said, have you seen what's up on Drudge? I said, no, I haven't seen what was up on Drudge, except for I was following Drudge since I came back from Washington Sunday morning, and they had this picture of Marco Rubio in a chair, and all it said was small underneath it. Have you ever seen Drudge? They're very old school in the computer formats, and they had a big picture of Marco Rubio sitting in a huge oversized chair, and underneath it just said small. And they left that up there until about 2 o'clock this afternoon. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking. But anyway, I got a call from one of my listeners, actually, and they said, have you seen what's on the front of Drudge right now? And I said, no, I haven't. And so they said, well, you go down there and look at the red writing on Drudge. And I looked at it, and it said this: Guccifer is being extradited to the United States. Do we know who Guccifer is? I didn't think so. That's why you hired me to come in here and tell you who Guccifer is. Okay, Guccifer is a Romanian hacker. And it was Guccifer who broke into Sidney Blumenthal's email and discovered Hillary's emails from her secret probation email server that was highly illegal. And he found it in 2013, I think it was. And so he is actually, I'll tell you this right now, he's representing the Russian government. Because he's the Russian, really it's the Russians who hacked the whole email server. Now this is the guy who brought the whole scandal up. He's being extradited to the United States with the approval of the Russian government, now let's think this one through, to testify against Hillary. He has all the emails. No, he won't. This is the deal. I mean, I know it's kind of frustrating, you might not understand this. About 6 months ago, I was offered the emails. There's about 70-some thousand emails. And I turned them down only because I didn't want classified information on my server at home. Probably a pretty good idea, right? But I was offered the emails, which meant this. These emails that are out there that they're talking about and hassling about right now with Hillary are known throughout the world now in the intelligence services. And what this means is this, is that they've gone to a second phase, or like a third phase actually, with Hillary's emails, and they got Brian Pagliano immunity from a federal judge to testify. Why? They want him to testify to say, look, here's Hillary's private email server over here, and she's gotten all these different top secret emails in there. And then she's done so by so many different ways. You have the SIC and SAP and all that stuff, which were those secret computers that you could only look at screen eyes only. And they take the hard drives out of them every night and put them in a vault. You cannot cut and paste, you cannot send forward. And the only way she could have gotten information there is if somebody walks in with a cell phone and looks at the screen and takes a picture, and then retypes it and puts it. That is so illegal. Am I turned off for a reason? That is so illegal. Now she's got about 1,000 of those on her email servers. This whole thing has been going on. This is why Lucifer's coming in. And this is my point when I was talking to the person. This is now going to be the proof that they need to say that this was an espionage ring that was operating under the guise of Hillary Rodham Clinton. We have never in our nation's history seen this type of exposure to our national secrets. This goes right beyond Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. And they were executed for what they did. Are they what? I mean, I don't know. Pagliano was the IT guy, and he took the fifth. Remember this? He took the fifth. He's a young guy. They hired him to basically set up that server. And the only way they could set the server up is if someone got the actual passcodes to the secure servers. He knows who that is. That's why a federal judge, the FBI had to go in to a federal judge and get immunity for him to testify. Of course he did it. Well, he's going to tell them about it too. Now that's going to be the problem for Hillary. That's going to be more evidence for Hillary against her. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. He's being facetious out there. Oh, but the uranium deal, Hillary made the Russians. Right. Uranium what? Well, I don't think they're friendly with the guy who's the Russian who owns Uranium One. I mean, I think Putin would sell anybody out on this one right now. Putin is not a friend of Hillary Rodham Clinton. Don't be. He wouldn't have given up. Listen, when Putin loses a jet aircraft with 220 people on it because we have blown it out of the sky, it has been the result of the operation of Hillary Rodham Clinton and Obama. I don't think he is their friend. He's not. He's actively working against. Nor do I think that he thinks that they're very friendly since what they're doing in the Ukraine to the Russian people. Let's go back to World War II and remember what happened there. You know, that was the largest disaster, or not disaster, the largest loss of life for the Russian army was in the Ukraine, to the Germans. And the Ukrainians that are there have been fostered along by John Brennan, the CIA director, and he's working with the former Nazis in the Ukraine. Do you think Putin likes that? No, he's very much against what Obama and Hillary Clinton have done. So that's why you're having Gusifer come in at this time. The time is perfect. Yeah.
Okay, we all know that Hillary Clinton is really very good. But the question is this. They get really super close into nailing her in the coffin. Do you think there's going to be a very high probability that Obama is trying to use some sort of
Well, I'm sure he'll try. You know, there's a number of different things that can come from this. There's Bernie Sanders too.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders. There's, there's a reason why Bernie Sanders is so sick and tired of hearing about her emails. And that's because he's in the emails. Sorry, Bernie. He doesn't want to be mentioned with these emails because he's mentioned in the emails. And he's mentioned in the emails because Bernie Sanders and Patrick Leahy up in Vermont, they've managed to open up the border up there with this new Justin Trudeau, who, by the way, converted to Islam just recently. Justin Trudeau opened up the borders and allowed the cartels, the Sinaloa cartels, to move massive tonnage of marijuana across the border into the United States, open. The cartels, in particular the Sinaloa cartel, pays a non-profit, non-governmental organization. I mean, come on, what's the the Clinton Foundation? It's the same thing. It's a different one. It's a green energy one. And they pay this non-governmental organization that's operating out of Vermont to basically allow them to bring that marijuana in. You see what's going on there? And that's why he is so tired of hearing about her emails, because he's in the emails. He doesn't want that to come about. Yes?
Before we run out of time, will you tell us about your adventures at CPAC?
Yes.
Thank you.
We haven't run out of time. It's not quite ready for.
Oh, it's very good.
Anyway, so that's why Bernie Sanders is going to be mentioned and all. You got a whole cavalcade of people that are going to fall here. And yeah, exactly. And then you have the whole thing with the Obamas and with the Muslim Brotherhood and all that stuff that's starting to creep out now. And they're passing legislation to declare, the House, I think, passed a bill to declare the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization. Now, what that means is that you have many members of CARE that are in our own government. That's all going to permeate down to them, which is what it should do. Okay. All right, so CPAC. I'll change gears to CPAC. Conservative Political Action Conference, which was last week, and I left on Wednesday and came back Sunday. And I'll tell you, it was kind of interesting because at the Gaylord Hotel, large hotel right there next to Washington, D.C., over 12, I think there's probably a total of 15,000 participants there at one time. And I have to say, the first thing, I had a chance to sit down and talk with someone I haven't talked to in a long time, and that's John B. Welch. You know who he is? Caravan to Midnight, radio announcer, radio guy. Used to was on Coast to Coast for a long time. Anyway, we were having a conversation, and I said to him, when I first got there, I said, John, I said, what's your biggest impression about what you're seeing here at CPAC? And he goes, the youth movement. And I said, that's mine too. And both of our eyes kind of lit up because I would say at least a good 40% of the people that were there were probably 35 and under. And now, of course, they all had different political thoughts. It's like really herding cats. But conservatism is alive and well amongst that group and growing. There's no question about it's growing. Their enthusiasm is growing. So that's a good thing. That's a real good thing. However, the whole thing is orchestrated by, the whole CPAC thing, in my opinion, is orchestrated by the, all the establishment Republicans. And so any candidate who rises up as somebody in opposition to the establishment, be it Trump or Cruz, is going to be resoundingly booed down, basically. Now, Cruz not so much as Trump, but we saw this actually play out on the night of the debate. And it was very interesting. On the night of the debate, which was Thursday night, we were in a big room, about 10 to 12,000 people in the room. And they had a big stage up there. They had Sean Hannity. And by the way, we got a Sean Hannity football back there. I caught it. He threw it out back up there. We're going to raffle it. Not tonight, but we will. It's signed, sealed, and delivered. And see it back there? Becky's holding it up. You can see it. We brought that back so that we can do it. Raffle next week, I guess. And anyway, Sean Hannity comes out to about an hour and 15 minutes before the debate thing going on, and he just knocks it out of the park about party unity. Does a fantastic job. I was like a 75%er on Sean Hannity. I'm 150%er on the guy now. He did an absolutely outstanding job about party unity, and he just went through the whole thing. He didn't care if you're a Rubio, if you're a Kasich or whatever, but at the end of the day, we're all coming out, we're going to be stronger because we want to beat Hillary Clinton and all that stuff. And just was dynamic as all get out. It's just the best thing, one of the best political things I've ever seen. I think you can probably YouTube it. But then after that, and this is kind of how the whole thing played out, you had a bunch of Fox News commentators come on, Katie Pavlich and Mary Catherine Ham and three other stooges, basically. And they came out and for about an hour did nothing but trash Trump. And I thought to myself, boy, are we losing the message here? And they were anti-Trump, pro-Cruz, pro-Rubio. I'm not too sure and I think it was more Rubio than anything else because the Rubio is, of course, the establishment Republican. So much for unity. That's really I'm not going to endorse anybody, I don't really care, but the message was completely lost. And as kids being kids who were in the room, because why? After about the first 10 minutes of the trashing, all the Trump people just walked out. It was a big walkout. They just said, screw this. We don't want to listen to these punks. Basically, they're acting like punks. And I mean, it was not professional except for Mary Catherine Ham. She's the dark-haired lady. She did she was very constructive, actually. She said Donald Trump this or that or the other, and she laid out a logical argument. The rest of them were just emotional and bad-mouthing, saying bad things and stuff like that. It was unprofessional. So then they started the debate, and of course, as they were getting closer to the debate, they actually acted as cheerleaders for hateful discussion about Trump. That just lost it all for me, and I said, that's out. So Trump was supposed to be there Saturday morning. He didn't show up. He said, no, I'm not going to be there. I'm just not. Why, right? So his people said, he's not going to be there. So that was kind of disappointing. But my point is this, is that the unity can be there with with the right cheerleader. If you got Sean Hannity up there, he's going to be leading the charge for that. But it was clear to me that the establishment Republicans, who was operating through Fox News there, were not having anything of it. They were just not. They were turning everybody away from Trump. And quite frankly, there's going to be a point, in my opinion, that if Rubio pulls ahead of Trump, then they're going to trash they're going to trash Cruz. If Cruz pulls ahead, because he's a conservative. Now, Wiki, are you ready? Yep. All right. I want you to watch this commercial from 1964.
No.
Don't watch this commercial from 1964 until we get the Wiki man up there. Are you ready? Well, anyway, you want me to keep talking? Okay, I'll keep talking. Yes, sir. Question?
Paul, did you see on Fox News this Judge Janine badmouth Mitt Romney tearing Trump apart?
Yes, I did.
Did you like that?
But I love Judge Janine. I mean, I'm like in love with her. Never met her, but I just like what she says. So, and again, I'm not supporting Trump or Cruz or Rubio or anybody. Although I do not support Rubio for a number because he's part of the Gang of Eight, and that's pretty obvious. I'm just saying the tenor of it all is not going to win us an election. Does that make sense? I don't care if it's Rubio. Is he going to be better than Hillary? I don't know, but I'm not going to vote for Hillary. And now you're getting people saying, well, we're going to trash Trump, and we're going to vote for Hillary because we don't want Trump. That's stupid. So what we're seeing here is you're seeing the Republican Party self-destructing and wanting, in my opinion, you've got Rance Priebus, you've got Grover Norquist, who, by the way, you know who Grover Norquist is? He's the anti-tax guy. He stands about this tall. Are we ready? You ready, Wiki?
Yes, he's also the Muslim Brotherhood guy.
That's right, he's the Muslim Brotherhood. He stands about this tall. I mean, it's amazing.
Hey, last call for coffee.
Okay, you ready? Yep. Okay, now watch this commercial from 1964.
Back in July in San Francisco, the Republicans held a convention. Remember him? He was there. Governor Rockefeller. Before the convention, he said Barry Goldwater's positions can, and I quote, spell disaster for the party and for the country. For him, Governor Preston. The day before the convention, he called Goldwaterism a, quote, crazy quilt collection of absurd and dangerous positions. Or this man, Governor Romney. In June, he said Goldwater's nomination would lead to the, quote, suicidal destruction of the Republican Party. So, even if you're a Republican with serious doubts about Barry Goldwater, you're in good company. Vote for President Johnson on November 3rd. The stakes are too high for you to stay home.
If you go to my website, I have a little article that says like father, like son. I mean, you wonder where Mitt Romney gets this from. He's protecting the establishment clearly by going on and doing something I think is just despicable, like his father did back in 1964. And how many of you remember the 1964 election with Goldwater? Yeah, it's the same thing. Back in 1992, we saw the same thing with the endorsement by a lot of your undercover sort of Republican groups like the Lincoln Club out of Orange County endorsing Clinton over George Bush. That's what prompted me to leave the Republican Party, because I saw that. I witnessed that. So I've never been Republican. I've never been associated or signed up as a Republican ever since 1992. Just because of that, I said, I'm not playing the game. Now, this upcoming primary is kind of interesting, and I'm cutting through a lot of things. But the upcoming primary for California, June 3rd, is that what it is? Something like that? I don't know how many delegates we have. We have a lot of delegates in California, but this upcoming primary, we actually might be in play as a state, if it comes down to it. And that was one of the big talks that was going on at CPAC, because people could see that happening. And now we have Carla again.
You do know that in order to vote for a Republican candidate, you have to be registered as a Republican, right? The Democrats will allow you to, you can vote, but Democrats allow you to vote for anybody. Anybody can vote for a Democrat.
Did you hear that? Okay, if you're an independent like me, I'm declined to state independent. I have to register to be a Republican to vote in the Republican primary. Okay, now let's put this in perspective. If you're, but in the Democratic Party, anybody can vote, right?
Right.
Okay, Republicans have shut everybody else out in their primary in California. We also have, in the primary system, it's the two top vote getters get to be into the final. Now, presidents are different, but my point is that with Prop 14 that came about in 2010, we eliminated the party system. Did you know that? The primaries, if you get two Democrats, the two top vote getters, they go on to compete against one another in the general, except for president and governor. Does that make sense? So tell me, how does that advantage, any of that advantage the Republican Party in California? It diminishes the Republican Party in California. And that's been my point. That's one of the reasons why California, in terms of Republicans or conservatives, is totally irrelevant down in Sacramento. Does that make sense? And then you mix that in with term limits and all that other stuff, and then you can see what's going on here. Yes, sir?
Paul, I'm on the fence on this superdelegate. Can you explain the superdelegate business to me? How can Bernie win a state, but Hillary gets all the superdelegate?
They're Democrats. It's the party that does that. And yeah, and of course, this is an interesting dilemma, because super delegates and the delegate situation, the Republicans don't have, I don't think the Republican Party has super delegates. It's only the Democrats, and they have figured out whoever they want to have as their person, we'll just give them more super delegates. That's why it's corrupt. It's a totally corrupt system. But here's the problem. And this is kind of an interesting thing politically. We can see the shape-shifting right in front of us at CPAC, because there were a lot of Bernie Sanders people, youngers, that were there at CPAC, which is interesting, because the youngers are keeping Bernie Sanders on life support in the Democratic Party. You guys know that, right? All right, because all the youngers, they're looking at his identity. He's honest. He tells them he's a socialist. He tells them everything truthful from his heart. And so they hate Hillary Clinton. They hate the dishonesty. In fact, there was a guy today, as I was just leaving the House, they had some sort of forum going on, and he was confronting Hillary Clinton about a statement that was made about Bernie Sanders, how he's a Democrat, and he trusts Bernie over her, which I thought was interesting. But these kids being idealistic that are Democrats are taking a look at that superdelegate situation and they're going, what kind of a screw job is this? And they're figuring it out on their own. So now we're starting to see people either go libertarian or go Republican from the Democratic Party. And even in, I think it was in Michigan today, that Donald Trump got endorsement, some union endorsements, which, that's just kind of out of the, that just doesn't happen. And it's because of that, because they see this superdelegate thing, it's not working on the Democratic side. So you're going to see a lot of migration back and forth between parties this time. Yes, Bob?
I read today that there's some kind of sense in Rubio wanting him to drop out before the Florida primary so he doesn't get trounced in his own state. Is there any discussion about this?
Yes, there was. There was a lot. All the stuff happened outside the meeting halls, of course, all in the hallways and everything. And we were on Radio Row. We did our 6 hours of show, and then I did, another 5 or 6 hours of interviews with different radio shows. And all the characters are walking right around out in front. You see on Fox News, like Hannity and Ben Carson, all the personalities, they were all walking around. And by the way, they're just human beings, just like you and I, by the way. Anyway, but there was a lot of talk about that. There was a lot of talk about a number of different personalities that were in the hall. But the Rubio camp is starting to fray, as we're seeing, because they don't want to have, I guess it's the establishment people that don't want to have the bad stain of Rubio on them. That's the only thing I can think of right now, because it looks like they're going to pull away and they're going to get him out of the Florida primary, and it's just going to be left up to Casey, Cruz, and Trump. Yes, sir.
Do you predict we'll have voter fraud a lot like we had with Obama?
Let me ask you this. Does the sun come up in the east or west? We know it comes up in the east and sets in the west, and that's a surety. Yeah. Oh, there's going to be tons of that going on. Yes, sir.
We were talking about the Republican versus Democrat voting will we have in California. Now we're talking what we're going to move ahead. I think it's time that we Republicans realize there are certain districts in the state where Republicans can't win. So we've done at Farm Bureau. We actually went through, we tried to find extremely moderate Democrats who will vote Republican on some issues, and we support those over the very liberal Democrats. And we've had very good success being able to win, and then they actually worked with us, and that's where the moderate caucus came from California, moderate down.
And it's really, I understand what you're saying, and I know that, what's his name? Who's the president of the Republican Party in California? What's his name? Brulte has been engaging in that and giving money to Democratic candidates. Unfortunately, he's been giving money to Democratic candidates over the Republican candidates, which I think sends just catastrophic signals to everybody about the Republican Party. But I understand what you're saying. I think that's
my point was, I think it's helped on certain key issues.
right.
Where we have actually won certain key issues in the legislature, which we would have lost if we didn't have the moderate Democrats.
Right. Yeah. And the whole two-party system in California, in particular, in the state legislature, is just destroyed. Yeah, I mean, it's not. Republicans and conservatives are not relevant at this point in time, and it's going to I think it's going to take something like the whirlwind, if you will, of what's going to happen perhaps in June if it comes down to Trump and Cruz, and California is in the play, because Republicans have to show up at that point in time, one way or another. And will it be those of us that are supporting a conservative, or will it be crunch time with the establishment? And here's my precaution, everybody, and it comes basically from what Carla is saying, and why I would go back and register as a Republican, because that's the game, that's the way the game is played. If you're one of these independents who's on the sideline, or if you're a Democrat and you don't know this, because this is their game, they play this. When you don't know this information, you go say, well, I'm a Democrat and I'm going for Cruz. And you realize you can't register, it's too late, right? You get that? So maybe that's a function of the Tea Party to get that message out, because I am going to register Republican just in case. Then after that, I'll change my mind. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, I don't know whether Cruz's wife was married to Cruz or she was single, but I did some homework on her. Come to find out, she was tied in with the, CFR.
Right.
Council
Right.
on Relations.
Right.
And also, she wrote, I don't know if it would actually be called a document, but she wrote an article on open
Borders.
borders.
Right.
And this, I thought, no, I guess maybe 5, 6 days ago.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I said, that don't sound too good.
Well, you forgot the part where she actually works for Goldman Sachs. You just left that out. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a big funder. Yeah. Yeah, this is all, we've known this for a long time, you know, because there's been bios done on her. It's just, it's the catching up with the news cycle and letting it get out and stuff, you know. Here's my takeaway with all this, and this is what I want to try to do. I fault for all of this the Republican Party and the leadership of the Republican Party for creating this circular firing squad methodology that's gone on with the debates and the whole primary thing, because you have to have a debate every once in a while. And this whole thing with the debates, I got to tell you, has turned into nothing more than a huge WWF spectacle. And I saw the spectacle in play the other night at CPAC. You know, it was just bloodlust. I mean, it really was. And you had the warm-up crew come out and trash Trump. And so anytime Trump said anything, you know, they were booing him. And the booing kind of went for Trump, sometimes for Cruz, and not a lot for Rubio. Which, I mean, I used to put together high school assemblies for 3,000 kids, so I kind of get how this whole thing plays out. They were the cheerleaders for the anti-Trump movement, which of course is what Romney's all about, and that 1964 commercial's all about. And I'm all for party unity, because I think we have enough ahead of us to try and stop who's ever going to be put in place if Hillary, when she does, she's going to go down. There's going to be some things happening here shortly. When they start to bring in, you know, immunity for people, there's something there. And what these people say, it's kind of obvious, actually.
Well, I heard the city the other day, they're about to wrap this all up.
I bet they are. Just perfect timing. I believe they are about to wrap it up.
Obama's gonna pardon her. Don't worry about that.
You know, she's a lawyer, but she's obviously not a very good one. Anyway, any other questions? Thank you very much. It's now happy time. No, happy hour. It's always happy time. Happy hour. Thank you very much.
Good time tonight?